So today's 1, 2, 3. By the way, happy 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like January 23rd. 1, 2, 3. In case you are unaware, our mathletes took home the golden calculator this weekend. Especially Chris Koppel deserves your congratulations if you see him. And Ozzy and Jenny and Owen and Anish. I think that was all of them. They all competed on Saturday, and we brought home the golden calculator. So that is why all this. They voted for me to color my hair blue and red, which actually this was way difficult because it was right by my mouth and my nose, and it took way longer than I thought. Next time I'm just doing my head. 9192. Any questions? Yeah. Number 5. I love how Flynn can't handle me right now. But in high school, you don't even realize. For swim team, we would dye our hair and shave it in crazy ways. So I had a double mohawk one time that started as a single in the front and split to a double in the back. Yeah. I had red Liberty spikes one time that we just let our hair grow out all season. So then I used that spray glittery color and just twisted it and made Liberty spikes. Yeah. I had a whole nother life you guys don't even know about.
You probably look like Pippi Longstocking with that.
So an electrician drives 8 miles round trip to work. That's really, really short. That's like my commute to school. That's why we bought the house where we did. She can travel 300 miles before she needs to fill her car with gas. So when that says she can travel 300, can our value be equal to 300? Yeah, she can drive 300. So I'm going to say drive can be equal to 300. Or, well, if we're talking about gas, do you think I can go over 300? Probably not. So I'm going to drive less than or equal to 300. Then we look at what we drive. So we've already driven 100, and then we drive 8 miles every day. So if we've already driven 100, we know we've got that 100 plus our 8 miles each day. We've got to use a variable to represent that happens over and over. That then is less than or equal to 300. I set this up in a way that some of you don't like. If that's the case, turn it around. I don't like this either. I want my variable term to come first. So what is this term actually? So it's got the D, it's got the 8. How are they held together? Melee, if you're helping me with this, how are these held together? How are 8 and D held together? What? Multiplication, right? Is it positive or negative? Positive. So I can move it out front and make that just 8D. I don't have to show the multiplication. I'm going to make that D a bit more of a D. I'm actually going to switch to lowercase just so it doesn't look like a 0. And then this 100 is a positive 100. And I can make that less than or equal to 300. Now we start the solution process. So I change colors. What would we do first here? Yeah, well, really, so it's the left side plus 100 and the right side plus 100. So you don't have to say 8D plus 100 because it's really the 100 here. But can I do this? No. So instead we have to actually undo it. Ooh, not yet. We subtract. And sorry, this is what I thought you were saying. The whole do it to both sides thing. We have to undo this. So we subtract 100 and subtract 100. To stop the plus 100, we subtract 100 because these cancel out to 0. That becomes 8D less than or equal to 200. And from there, we don't even need to keep solving because we've already gotten to the point that the question wanted us to get to here. But if if this was on the test, we would need to keep solving it. We would just, now we can divide by 8. One thing that you might want to have on your paper while you're doing this, as we are working this process, we're going up the PEMDAS ladder. So we first undo addition, subtraction, then undo multiplication, division, and we work our way up it. So this would come out to be D is less than or equal to, it'd be 160 with 40 left over, so I think 2.5, 25. I think it's 25 or 2, something weird like that. Because 8 fits in 20 times to make 160. Then another 40. I believe it's 25. Yep. And that would be days. So the max she could drive is 25 days. Other questions, 9.1, 9.2. So this, the only thing it asked you to do is pick the inequality. So the inequality that we picked was the one that showed the 100 and the 8D on the left-hand side. And that had to be less than 300. So that one was D. Yeah, Xavier. 15. So Patty wants to paint her house and garage. And can use at most 6 gallons. Can she use 6 gallons?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, this is one of those realistic problems. If I have 6 gallons, I can use all of it. So, I'm gonna paint, or I can use, or whatever you want to say. It could be equal to 6. Can I use more? No, I bought 6, so I need to use less than or equal to 6. Now, how do I paint, or what do I paint, or ask that question of I need some details? Well, I'm painting the house and the garage. Okay, 2 things. So I could come back over here and say paint is really house and garage have to be less than or equal to 6. I'm really just thinking through this. You wouldn't have to write any of this out, but this, I'm just trying to show my thought process. I then find out the house takes 5 times as much as the garage, and G can represent the garage. So if G represents the garage and the house takes 5 times the garage, well, I can keep garage as G, but if house is 5 times the garage, how do I represent that? Yeah, G times 5, because it's 5 times the garage. So this house becomes 5G, this garage is just G, and that's less than or equal to 6. The garage and the house have to use less than or equal to 6. So it's recognizing that that 5G actually represents what the house is going to use. And on the math tree, you would want to be able to solve that. So add your like terms together, divide by your coefficients. Yeah? Just give me a second to capture the number here.
Good morning, Ozzie Parsons. Please come to the office. Ozzie Parsons to the office, please. Thank you.
Four from this homework. The Mitzi problem. So I'm going to do question 4, then we're going to move on to the next one to be able to take questions from all of them. So, after getting a job at the ice cream parlor, Mitzi puts $20 in her savings account every week. If she had 90 to start, which inequality could be used to determine how many weeks it would take her to have at least $350 in the account? First thing I look at, what am I actually trying to answer? How many weeks will it take to have at least $350? So I want to have saved, and this is money, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I used to think I was clever when I would do things like that. Oh, save money. If I want $350, that's my reference value. It could be equal. Or what? So what do you think, Abby? I could have $350. Do I want to have less than or more than if I don't have actually $350? So if we have the expression at least, yeah, you would want more than. So if I'm going to save more than or equal to $350. Now look at what do we already have? What's already in there? 20. What is, ooh, wait, what is that 20? Ooh, no, what is it? Check that again. $20. What's it used for? Yeah, but read what it says about the 20.
put $20 in her savings account every week.
That's 20 every week. So does that happen once or multiple times? Multiple times. So to represent that, we can't just put 20. It's 20. Yeah, because it's 20 times the number of weeks. Plus, bless you by the way, we already have something in there. $90. So we see that our answer is really choice A there. And I'm not going to work through that solution just to save some time. I know at 9-3 we'll have to work some more solutions. Any other questions that are killing you from 9-1, 9-2? So let's move to 9-3. If we have any questions from 9-3, I would like to talk about those. And remember, guys, I think a lot of you have figured this out by now. Some of our homework questions often end up recycled and used for the mastery. So the best prep that you can have for the mastery is making sure that you're solid on the practice. So even if you already got an 80%, if any of this gave you trouble, ask me about it now. It doesn't matter if you still need to do the homework or not. Lily?
I have a lot of questions. So, first one is number 2.
The positive negative work. So we have to look at what's happening to the x. There's a 3 multiplying and a 2 being subtracted. Or we can think of this as a negative 2. Because this can either be a minus or a negative. Now, either way, what do I need to do to both sides? How do I stop the multiplication by 3 or this negative 2 or minus 2, however you look at it? Which do I stop first and how do I do it?
Stop the minus.
Yeah, how do I do it? So I add 2 on both sides. So add 2, add 2. This becomes 3x is greater than, well, 3. And if that's true, then I divide by 3 and divide by 3, and that tells me
X equals 0.
x is greater than
Greater than
1. A number,
Yeah.
sorry about my x, it like connected there. But if x is greater than 1, can 1 be my answer? No. That right here shows 1 is my reference number, but it's not my answer because it's open. But then I shade to the right because x is greater than that. My Azores. I think I need a new smartboard. Other questions? Lily?
Fine.
So what would we do to both sides first? Bless you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's what you always want to ask yourself.
Minus 5.
So if we subtract 5 both sides, if I'm at negative 9, told to go down 5 more, where do I land? Negative 14. Then we would
And we would divide by 2.
don't forget about your negative. Now, we do not turn that inequality symbol because what we divided by was positive. Even though the numerator value was negative, that doesn't matter. That's where people in the past have had issues. Maybe? Mm-hmm. Man, I really wish that would just work. So when we look at what's happening to the x, we have a 4 and a 5, and really if we're specific, we have a 4 and a negative 5 because the sign in front of it goes with it. So I could either rewrite this as plus the negative, or I can just leave it like this, but how do I undo the minus 5? Yeah, we use addition. So I add 5 to both sides. That gives me 4x is less than, what's my right side become? 12. You carried, you just forgot to say it. And then what do I do to get rid of that 4? Divide by that 4. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote 3 over. Oh, well, I know why I wrote 3. My brain is ahead of itself. I get x is less than x is less than 3. Hi, Saul. This substitute teacher this morning, Saul walks in and I was like, "Hey, somebody keep an eye on him." She turns on and was like, "What? Who?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's our dog." I had to realize like that's not a normal thing necessarily. That there might just be a dog kind of wandering. Justin, question? Number one. Numero uno.
It freaked me out. I was just there. I really want another ball.
All right, Justin. What would be the first thing that we'd want to do to both sides?
Take away 4.
Take away that 4. So then, and this is where it gets tricky, what do we get then?
-2.
-2. What do we do next?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. Which this is like a number divided by itself, but we have the negative, so it's a -1. Now when we go to graph it, -1's my reference number, so I know I've got to use one of these guys, because those are the only ones that reference the -1. But then I have to show that x is the values less than -1. Now people have been struggling with this on negatives. Like no matter what side of the number line you're on, less means down or lower. So even though the numbers get bigger, they're lower quantities. B would be our answer here. Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
But
Number 8.
ocho.
I got 8, 9, and 10 nonsense.
Ocho, nueve, and diez. I realized the other day that my Spanish is hurting, and I really should get Rosetta Stone or something and review. My mother-in-law has a set. So this is one of the ones, guys, if you haven't finished 9-3 yet, or, I mean, just regardless, I would ask that you give me your attention for a second, because this is the kind of one that messes a lot of people up. And because of that, on those state tests, this is how they write the problems, at least a couple of them, to intentionally play on your weaknesses. What values do I have on the left-hand side? And notice I said, what values do I have? So break it up. Break them apart. What is this? Forget about everything else. What is this? It's a 9. Is it positive or negative? Positive. I'm going to go ahead and put a little plus in front of it. What is this?
That's a -4.
It's a -4x. It's all held together, one value. So I can switch this order around and make it -4x plus 9 is greater than -7. This will help a lot of you because now I can easily see what do I do to get rid of that 9. It's positive, so we have to subtract. What will I then do to get rid of that -4 is now easier to see. That's a -4 being multiplied, not a -4. It's not subtraction, it's multiplication. So this is -9 first. That gives me -4x is greater than both negatives, so combine them. and make it negative. Then this is the tricky part where people screw up. When we divide by -4, because we divided by the negative, my inequality turns around and x is less than 4. The negatives cancel each other out. It makes my inequality flip. And I get x less than 4.
What else, guys? Oh yeah, sorry. 9.
So, for 9, think about the setup. Before I do it for you, think about your setup. We need to trim your mustache, man. You're really eating it. He's young, but he seems to have such an old soul. Just because he's like trained to be a therapy dog. My buddy does not want to get another dog, but his wife's trying to convince him. My friend Dave, who teaches math also, and he said he thinks he's going to give in as long as they get part poodle, which I saw is because they're hypoallergenic. They don't shed, so they're better dogs in a way for like clean house and everything. So, Lily, if we have $50 to spend, can we spend all of it? Could it be equal?
Yes.
Yeah. Could I spend more than what I have? No. Unless you have a credit card. So we could spend less than or equal to $50. You with me on that? Then we look at how we spend it. Well, I'm only buying DVDs and only the ones that cost $7 each. So how I spend the money is 7 times the amount of DVDs. That's got to be less than or equal to 50. Now, obviously you have your answer now for what the question is asking you, but if we go the next step like I would ask you on the mastery, we would divide by 7 on both sides, and that will give me that D is less than or equal to 7.14 yada 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 yada. So realistically, how many DVDs could you buy? 7. So that's where I would want you to take your answer on the mastery of how many can you actually get. So yeah, get to this decimal answer, but then give me a realistic answer. Same situation for 10. Which I'm going to go snapshot 9 real quick. But 10 is saying, how much can you make in the amount of time that you have? Now, I know that 10 was a challenge problem. I intentionally put it on here to push you guys. We need to set up, what do we know we already have, and what do we know we still have yet to do? So, Brianna's a world-class film producer. She takes 4 months to produce a full-length movie, so 4 months per movie, and 3 months to produce a television series, 3 months for every television series. If she signed a 2-year contract, well, if she has 2 years, how many months does she have? Abby?
So I know this because we worked on it on Friday. So what you would have is
2 years, how many months?
2 years. It was like 2 years and 3 months.
Hold on, back up. You're thinking too hard. How many months are in a year?
12.
12, right? So the first thing we know is that this contract that she signed, this 2-year contract, that gives her 24 months. So she is going to have less than or equal to 24 months to get this done. Now they also tell us something else. She has to produce at least 4 movies. What would I do with that 4 movies? Do I have movies involved anywhere in my inequality?
Yes.
Lily, you asked for this. I'm going to pick on you. So I had this, right? 4 months per movie. So I set this up. But now we get told we're making 4 movies. So we substitute. So 4 times 4 plus 3 times however many TV series. We don't know however many TV series, but we know she's got to do 4 movies. Three times how long, or 3 times the number of television series. Plus, really, the 16 months she's going to spend on movies, it's got to be less than or equal to those 2 years. Let's move on to 9.4 to help some people with that, because most of us should be working on 9.4 or 9.5 at this point.
Yeah, I'm working on mine.
It doesn't matter. Nine, 4, giving you guys trouble. Abby? Number 1. Just start off and dive in. What needs to be distributed here?
The negative 3.
Is that 3 negative?
I know what the 3 minus 3 was.
It's 3 minus that quantity. So what gets distributed is only the negative. So this is really 3 minus everything that's in here greater than negative 8. Which the negative distributes. The 3 doesn't change. So this becomes 3 minus 7 plus 2x, because it's the opposite of 7 minus 7. The opposite of negative 2x, positive 2x. The greater than doesn't change. The negative 8 doesn't change. We then start combining like terms. So 3 minus 7, what's 3 minus 7? Negative 4. Then we still have that 2x is greater than negative 8. Now we can start solving. We can start moving things. So remember, we got to deal with this 2 that's multiplied last. We got to get rid of this first. How do you get rid of a negative 4?
You
Add 4. So we add 4 and we add 4. This becomes 2x is greater than negative 4. And then divide by 2. And we just get that x is greater than negative 2. Remember, we do not flip the inequality symbol, because what we divided by was positive.
I always forgot in this you can
Yeah, so the biggest mistake that people make there is you only distribute what is right against the parentheses. So that 3 is not right against the parentheses. The negative is right against the parentheses. Other questions? 9.4. Other things giving you problems.
Good morning, Peyton Bowers. Please come to the office. Peyton Bowers to the office, please. Thank you.
So when you do question 2, can you move like the 9 and just do 5x plus 2x?
Well, you can do 5x plus 9 or 9 plus 5x, but so the constant is already by itself here. So if we look at doing number 2, we have variable, constant, variable. So I have 2 variable terms, 1 constant term. I can leave the constant term where it is. Guys, you on task?
Yeah.
As long as all your homework's done, I don't really care. Make sure all your homework's done. I got to get this variable term of 5x combined with that 2x. If I move the 2x over, I also got to move the 9. So my better option is get rid of the 5x by just subtracting it from both sides. Variables on both sides are just like constants on both sides. You just got to do something to combine them. This then becomes 9 is greater than negative 3x. This is where this gets funky. Yeah.
But if you subtracted it by x, wouldn't you just be canceling the x's out?
If you have 3 bananas and somebody wants 5 bananas, you need to go get 2 more bananas, right? But you can't just go get 2. Like 2 of what? It's got to be 2. So like, if you have 2 bananas and somebody wants 5, you're missing 3. Like you need 3 more, but not just 3. It's 3 bananas, right? So we got to have that variable still. Now division, that would cancel. Division of the same, because a number divided by itself cancels. But this is subtraction. So then we divide by negative 3, and guys, this is where it gets really weird. I get negative 3 on the left, my inequality flips, and I get only x on the right. But if I turn the whole thing around, this becomes x is greater than negative 3. If I turn that whole thing around, I get x is greater than the negative 3.
Oh, we have to cancel out the negative.
Bless you. Any questions?
I'm still confused on how you were supposed to like for number 3. I'm still confused on how you're supposed to do the whole
What's that
Let's
zero?
do it.
What's that 0 with that cross?
Oh, that is the empty set. If you've not done 9-4 yet, you should definitely watch us do this problem. Do this
I
with
know.
us. So question 3 starts with the opposite of the quantity, because that's held together in parentheses, x minus 3, less than 3 minus x. So the first thing we do is distribute into the parentheses anything that's right up against it. What's the opposite of x? Well, negative x. What's the opposite of a minus 3? Well, plus 3 is less than 3 minus x. So I can start however I want to. I could either add x to get rid of a negative x, or I could subtract 3 to get rid of a plus 3. It doesn't matter what we do. So let's just add x. If I add x to both sides, well, this is interesting. I have a negative x over here plus x. I have a negative x over here plus x. So what I end up getting
2x.
is 3 is less than 3. Because remember, this is negative x. If you owe somebody a skateboard and you give them a skateboard, you have no debt. There's no debt left. The negative x plus x cancels. Is 3 less than 3?
That's weird.
No. This is not possible.
which is the cross out 0.
The empty set. That is not a 0.
Does that
That
mean,
means this is impossible. It is mathematically untrue. It is the empty set because there are no possible solutions. Essentially, it means you've broken a rule or something. Like, the setup was false from the get-go. So that's the problem, is this up here was wrong. It's false. There's no answer. What'd you say? If it had this, it's still not true. Because Can 3 be equal to 3? Yes. Can 3 be less than 3?
No, it can't be
No,
less than
this
or
is
greater.
still the wrong symbol. Now, if they started with a just straight up equal sign, then sure, yeah, these
But
are equal, but
instead
they
of
didn't.
The less than, it would just be equal.
Yeah, it
to
could not
the-
involve an inequality at all.
So if that less than was traded in with an equal sign, it would be a positive.
Yeah, but it could only have the equal sign. That'd be the only thing that could be there. We got time for at least one more.
And
Requests?
two, that's just the
Requests?
6.
There's variables on both sides and negatives, not surprised. My left side, and to save time, I'm not going to copy the original. Once I distribute negative 3 times x becomes negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 2 becomes a positive 6. Now I start combining like terms. I have 4 options to start. Add 5x, add 3, add 3x, subtract 6. It doesn't matter how we start. So I like my variables on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and add 3x to move my variables to the left-hand side. That's one of 4 possible choices for solving this problem. This, unfortunately, is still negative. This is negative 2x minus 3 is greater than. These canceled. I only have 6. Are we with me up until here? Now I've got my variables over here. I need to move these constants over to the right side. So to do that, we add 3 to stop the minus 3 or to undo it. And this becomes negative 2x is greater than 9. Now be careful. We're going to divide by this negative 2. But when we divide by the negative, what else has to happen? We flip the inequality symbol. This becomes x is less than negative 4.5 if you go decimal, negative 9 halves if you stay rational, or negative 4.5 if you go mixed. So any of these values, that's why I put the equals, any of these could be your answer value, but all of them would have to be set up in this inequality. X is less than whatever of those numbers you chose. The decimal, the mixed, or the improper. That is all the time we have for today, especially with today's class having been work time. You have no excuse to be behind on your homework. So, our test will be the end of this week, probably Thursday, so that we possibly have Friday to work on it as well. Tomorrow, we're going to start Chapter 10. So if you have any more Chapter 9 questions, please come see me, message me, email me, text me, call me, whatever.
Wait, are we supposed to do
Thank
the
you.
9-5 video at home?
No, we're just not going to